Are you a seven-figure practice owner that wants to do more without burning out? Join us for the Seven-Figure Practice Retreat, a luxury mastermind where high-level practice owners step away from the day-to-day to build systems, strategy, and freedom in the Dominican Republic. This February, spots are limited, so apply now, and our sponsors are covering 95% of the cost over at practiceofthepractice.com/7. Again, that's practiceofthepractice.com/7. This is the Practice of the Practice podcast with Joe Sanok, session number 1270. I'm Joe Sanok, your host, and welcome to the Practice of the Practice podcast, where we help you build a thriving private practice you absolutely love. So we are so excited, especially you probably heard at the front end of the episode, about our seven-figure practice retreat that we're putting on in the Dominican Republic. If you are a seven-figure practice owner and you haven't applied for that, it's almost free for you because Headway is helping us put this on. They're paying the majority of the cost because they just believe in getting group practice owners together. So we just have an admin fee and you getting your flights, and that's it. So it's super amazing way to go to the Dominican Republic, hang out in an all-inclusive resort, and get to know other seven-figure practice owners. So you can apply over at practiceofthepractice.com/7. You can either use the number or spell it out. It'll take you to the same place. So when we're talking about Dominican Republic, all-inclusive, vacations, we can't just live there all the time. You know, the use of our energy, I don't know about you, but I kind of go in and out of how I use my energy, how I think about energy. And, sometimes it's caffeine based, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's how much am I around people? How much am I talking? I'm so excited today to get some clarity on thinking about my energy, thinking about how I put my efforts in places, and to make that just a little wiser. Which brings me to Diana Hill, who's a PhD clinical psychologist, international trainer, and sought out speaker on acceptance and commitment therapy, also known as ACT and compassion, host of the podcast Wise Effort, and author of I Know I Should Exercise But, and the Self-Compassion Daily Journal, the ACT Daily Journal, and the upcoming book, Wise Effort. Diana works with organizations and individuals to develop psychological flexibility so that they can focus their genuine energy on what matters most. She's integrated her 20-plus years of meditation experience with yoga and psychological training. Diana leads retreats and workshops internationally at Insight LA, Blue Spirit Costa Rica, PESI, Praxis Continuing Ed, Yoga Soup, and Insight Timer Meditation. She's on the board of the Institute for Better Health and blogs for Psychology Today and Mindful.org, and has been featured in NPR, Wall Street Journal, Women's Day, Real Simple Magazine, and numerous other media channels. Diana, welcome to the Practice of Practice podcast. We can add that to your list now.
Yeah, well, thank you. I want to go to Dominican Republic with you. My mom was born in the Dominican Republic.
Oh my gosh.
And she grew up in Peru, but I always have this connection to South and Central America and the people there, the food there. So that sounds like a fabulous
it's interesting.
experience.
I have mixed feelings about doing an event there because I ran a microfinance program in Haiti for 10 years. And and it's like to just see how that island is so different. And it's like, it's not the Dominicans' fault. It's not the Haitians' fault. It's how Europe divided up the island. And so
Exactly.
I'm excited to see that side of the island. And also it's like, I obviously with the politics in Haiti right now, not going back there anytime soon. So, Peru is also a pretty awesome place. Have you been there many times?
I went with my mom for my 40th birthday, and probably the most phenomenal experience I ever had was walking into the Sacred Valley. I did a silent walk into the Sacred Valley, which is where Machu Picchu is, and to walk through her history, our ancestors' history. She's not Peruvian, but because she grew up in Peru, so much of my early childhood had all these influences. So I've been there once, but now I bring people to Costa Rica, and that's, a fun place too.
I'll be there in just a couple months for a friend's wedding. So
there you go.
Love it. Well, let's talk energy. Let's talk about, so you've got this new book coming out, and I just want to start with, when we think about wise effort and how that integrates with ACT and mindfulness, let's just get the audience on the same page around what is the wise effort method, and then we'll dig into kind of how we can use it.
Well, wise effort, the term itself actually comes from Buddhism, It's one of the practices on the Eightfold Path of Buddhism. So you know how Buddhism has all these numbers. It has like the Four Noble Truths and the Three Poisons. So the Eightfold Path is, according to Buddhism, sort of this path of awakening. And it includes things like wise speech. That's a good idea. Wise livelihood. That's what we're doing right now, Joe. Wise livelihood, but also wise effort. And it has to do with how you are using your energy. But the book itself and my practice and my method isn't Buddhist per se. It draws from some of those contemplative practice, sort of the wisdom of ancient practices, but it draws a lot from psychological science. There are things that we do with our minds, with our sense of self, with our feelings that deplete our energy, disperse it, keep us playing small. And there are ways in which we can contact our values, we can expand our sense of self, we can open our minds so that we can put our energy in the places that matter to us, and it can become a form of regenerative energy. So many people think of energy as like just something I put out, but rather, if you've had sessions like this where you met with someone for 50 minutes and you leave the session feeling more energized than when you went in. So what was happening there? And my guess is that for most of us, what was happening there was we were showing up in our genius self with our genius energy, doing the thing that we do really well. And we were aligning it with our values. And we were keeping our minds and our hearts and our sense of self open so that our client could do that with us in return. And then we had this exchange of energy. You feel it. So you can feel expansive energy, you can feel contracted energy, and wise effort is a method to help you take charge of it and start to direct it in a more, science-backed, but also contemplative-backed way.
Well, before we get into kind of like what that looks like, tell us what it doesn't look like. How does the average person not have wise effort?
Okay, so this morning I was on the elliptical machine. And we have an elliptical where I often will get on to do emails because it's kind of a low effort activity. At least I don't push myself on the elliptical. It's not like a HIIT training class. So I'm on the elliptical and I'm writing emails, and my husband comes up to me. He leaves for work at 8. It was like 7:45. He comes up to me and he wants to ask me a question. And I tell him, I don't want to right now. I can't. Right? Now, in that moment, what I was doing and what I was falling into is what many of us fall into, which is something called the urgency effect, where we think something is very urgent and we neglect what's most important. And after that happened, I had this like feeling in my body of that didn't feel good. He left for work. I just completely, pushed him away. And how important are these emails? I mean, looking at my emails down here, I have 2,034 unread emails. So really in that 15 minutes, was that more important than connecting with my husband? There's no way I'm gonna get through all of them. So that's a wise effort move. And how we know we're engaging in So that's an unwise effort move. And how we know when we're engaging in unwise effort is we can feel the energy drain. Maybe we have a little twinge of regret. We can tell our body is like, that didn't feel right. And we also, in the long term, know that if we were to repeat that over and over and over again, it would lead us off track from the life that we really want to lead.
So then if we take that and say, okay, we want to do the opposite. We want to have wise effort. Like what does that look like in an everyday person's life? Because we're obviously not going to all be able to go to some Buddhist monastery, or just like, being a parent and just an adult to me is like so much harder than the bill we were sold. So it's like in everyday life, what does wise effort look like?
So, well, first you could just ask the listeners, ask yourself, when was a moment, as I brought up that example, what example came to you about unwise effort? Everyone has them. You know what unwise effort is, even before me defining it. And then when was a moment this past week that felt like it was wise effort, right? And what was different about that moment? So with the wise effort method, I walk people through first just getting curious. Wise effort is about curiosity. Curiosity about what's pulling you off track from wise effort. So I think there's 3 things primarily that pull us off track. We're stuck in a story. So I was in a story that I need to get my emails done. We're avoiding discomfort. There's something about sort of maybe the feeling that I would have if I left something undone, and then we also are holding too tight to things not changing. So first is getting curious about your own mind, your own psychology, your own being, what makes you psychologically inflexible in ACT terms. And then also, what are your values? How do you want to show up? The second part of wise effort has to do with opening up your mind, your sense of self, your heart, your being, the capacity to change so that you can focus your energy. So every day, little bits and pieces, we can think about wise effort in parenting. I have 2 teenage boys. When I walk into their room, there is I found cereal, a bowl of cereal with milk still in it, in the bottom drawer of the sports equipment dresser.
I'm so glad I have girls. Not that girls don't do those things. They do other things, but I feel like my girls like that just, I feel like I feel what you're going through, but in a different way.
Yeah. So you have a version of that. What's your version of that? Give me something that makes your skin crawl when your girls do it.
I mean, it's definitely way more emotional than like kind of gross. So like even at dinner last night, my partner Claire made this wonderful dinner. She put all this time into it. And then my 14-year-old, who is on her like 3rd day of high school, is just cranky. She's mad she has to help with the dishes. She's mad. And it's like clearly something is going on. And it's just like ruins the whole dinner. We're all like trying our best to not get sucked into the energy, but it's spreading. And then finally I just said to her, like, listen, if you're going to act this way, like you can either kind of get it together and like take some deep breaths and ground yourself, or you're welcome to eat somewhere else alone if you need alone time. And then finally at the end of dinner, she shared at lunchtime, close friend of her had said some really mean things about some other people. And she had to make the choice of, do I just go along with that or do I like excuse myself? And so she was dealing with all this just like storm of teen girl stuff. And so I think that's what we're seeing lately is the mental storm of just teen girlness.
Yes, absolutely. So my teenage boys' storm is in their rooms, but so much harder when the storm is inside their bodies. And you're trying to figure out, why are you so horrible right now? Yeah. So unwise effort would be to enter that without curiosity. The nature of curiosity is that it is non-judgmental. So when you are truly curious, like, I wonder contextually what's happening for this person. I wonder what it's like to be in her skin right now. I'm curious about my own experience. I mean, teenagers are great for this. Like they activate our own teenager self inside of us. And all of a sudden it's like, there's 2 teenagers in the room here, me and you, in terms of how I'm responding. Right. So I'm just curious about my inner world. I'm curious about their inner world. And we get curious also, like in that moment, it sounds like you gave an example of how wise and effort, your own wise effort of responding with your values, right? You didn't blow up at her. You didn't fight with her. You didn't force her to share. You showed up in a certain way as a parent that was values aligned. What would you say are the values that you would want to show up with at that dinner table?
I mean, I think that one of our core values, and I share this quite a bit on the show, is that I want my kids to be able to talk to anyone. And so I think that's a core value. And just so being able to talk or not talk with that friend that was making a different choice, I think was smart of her. I think the other thing, ever since they were little, I've said, you always have 3 choices. You can do what I say, and then you'll not get in trouble. You'll, do the dishes, get in the car, or whatever. You can say no, and you'll always get in trouble if you just say no. Or you can respectfully advocate for your position. And if you do that, sometimes I'll just say, this isn't a time that you can respectfully advocate. We have to do this. Most of the time, I'm going to hear you out. And so I think I saw that respectful advocacy in how she handled the situation, where she excused herself. She found friends that were more aligned with her in that moment. And she's not going to give up on that friend. That's a friend who she's had for a long time. She's not going to just ghost her, but she's trying to brainstorm, how do I work through those sorts of things. And so I think that the values of just advocating for yourself, advocating for your boundaries, and being a kind person to the world definitely came out in that.
Yeah.
In fact, I should probably tonight tell her I'm proud of her.
Yeah. So you saw the values in her, for sure. But I also see the values in you. Right? So the conditions that you created the values that you were showing up for in that moment at dinner. You were demonstrating that respect that you value, right? You were demonstrating sort of an environment where she could do those things that are like self-advocating. And wise effort has a lot to do with that. It has a lot to do with not being pushed around by our thoughts and our minds, but rather being directed by our hearts. And in order to do that, we need to know what our values are. But values not as something that like you write, like when you go into the grocery store or like someone's website and they have their mission statement with their values like on the bulletin board. That means nothing when it's on the bulletin board. It means everything.
Real quick, we were at our dentist's office and they said, our mission is to make everyone fulfill their best potential in life. I'm like, you're a dentist. Like, how about we just have good enough teeth that we can chew and it not hurt? Or like, it was just like so aspirational. And I'm like, that's great. And how do you guys practically even do that?
Exactly. And do I feel that when I'm in the dentist chair? That no. My dentist,
they are nice people. They do seem.
My dentist is amazing. But yeah, so how is that actually lived out? If someone were videotaping your dentist, and at the end of the day, watch the video of your dentist, or maybe watch the video of you at the dinner table with your kids, or me walking into a room with a drawer with a cereal bowl in it, the way in which I'm walking through that is that demonstrating my values. Someone would say, "Oh, that mom, yeah, she would prefer to have a clean room and bowls put back in the dishwasher. But what she really values in this moment is her relationship with her kid and helping him connect the dots between bowl and drawer to dishwasher. There's a frontal lobe thing that's happening here that he needs some scaffolding around."
Were you at your best? Were you like somewhere in the middle? Like, how did that play out?
It's played out many versions, many times, in different ways. So this is also the important context, right? So it depends. Sometimes if I can get myself grounded and I have a sense of my own, like, okay, remember what matters most in this moment. Remember the impermanence of these children. They are not going to be here forever. There will be a time when my house is perfect. It will be perfect. That drawer will be closed. And there will be something else that's not here because of that. So I can ground in that, and I really do believe that impermanence is a beeline to our values. There's been times when I've lost it, where I had a long day. I walk in, and I'm as dysregulated as this dysregulated room, and that is normal too. But when I do that, it's what happens next. Like how do I work through that in terms of unwise effort? Because we're always moving out of wise and unwise effort. And every moment is a choice point. So we know from, the work of Joseph Sorochi that this concept of choice points that show up over and over and over again, where we can choose to point our energy in the direction of our values, or we can choose to point our energy away. So if we do have an unwise effort, then how do we make the choice to sometimes it's repair. Sometimes it's having a conversation about what just happened here. Sometimes it's my own relationship with myself, not one of the unwisest efforts we can do as parents is berate ourselves for our bad parenting. Because when you are doing that, you deplete your energy, you build a story, and that is not supporting you in showing up with the respect or the presence or the kindness that you want to be able to show up for yourself, demo to your kids, and show up to them. So I remember Kelly Wilson, who's my first ACT trainer, in fact, one of the co-founders of ACT, told me, he said, I pity the child with a perfect parent. Because if you have a perfect parent and your kid comes to you and they see you as perfect and they have something that they've messed up on, are they going to be able to share it with you? So sometimes wise effort is also having mistakes and sharing in that,
So good. I'm taking a bunch of notes.
Okay.
This is awesome. In some ways, I feel like my kids maybe reached out to you to have you on the show. No, I'm just kidding. I want to thank Headway for sponsoring this episode. If you run a group practice, You know that accepting insurance can be overwhelming. Between credentialing, billing, and payroll, the admin side can easily take over your week. Headway was built to help you handle this, and they're the only platform designed specifically for in-network group practices. Whether you're growing your team or running an established practice, Headway makes the business side easier with faster credentialing, higher per-session rates, and bi-weekly payments your team can count on. They work with therapy, psychiatric, and hybrid group practices. There are no subscription fees, just the support you need to run your practice with ease. Run your best group practice with Headway, trusted by thousands of group practice leaders to simplify insurance admin and reach more people through in-network care. Curious how Headway can work for you? Head to join.headway.co/Joe. That's join.headway.co/Joe to learn more. Well, tell me a little bit about, rituals and habits you talk about a lot. I'm wondering how you daily practice to stay, what's your daily practice look like? Because so often I have people on the show that are experts in specific areas, and then to hear how that actually manifests in their own life gives a little legs to it. Tell me what this looks like in your own life. Like, you've shared a little bit about your kids. Like, what are other rituals or habits that you have either personally, with your family, with your friends, that keep you grounded in this way?
Well, I love the use of the word ritual because ritual brings in the sacred. You know, we have routines and then we have rituals. And rituals mean that you may have a routine, the thing that you do on a daily basis, but then how do you make it sacred? You know, so for us, a ritual at the dinner table is before we eat. Many people have rituals that they grew up with at the dinner table. Maybe you hold hands, maybe you say a prayer. We read the 5 contemplations. You know, we remember where this food came from, and we pause and we have silence. We ring a bell. It's a ritual. There's also this whole big push around like atomic habits. If you look at the best-selling books out there, Atomic Habits is always on the top of the list. I really love all of that sort of habit formation, using behavioral psychology to reinforce cues and behaviors. And I also think there's a difference between atomic habits and wise habits. So wise habits are expansive and flexible and driven by your values. And they have the intrinsic motivator of when I engage in this habit, it feeds back to me. And sometimes we can start with a wise habit, you know, like a wise habit like meditating every day. That's a great wise habit until it becomes a should and you're not meditating and you feel bad about yourself and you're berating yourself because everyone else seems to meditate or exercise or whatever. So my habits, my wise habits I believe in flexible habits and values-based habits. And those are changing and shifting and have shifted over my life. Right now, the wise habits that I'm engaging in are in the morning, I practice something called noble silence, which is nobody talks to mama. Nobody talks to mama until she's done with her practice. And my practice is meditation and journaling, and usually reading someone that's inspiring to me. I have a whole bookshelf. I've got Frances Weller's new book out right now. I love everything that Frances Weller writes. I read poetry. I love, so Frances Weller's original book was The Wild Edge of Sorrow. It's about grief. The book out that's now is In the Absence of the Ordinary, which is a beautiful book about how we enter into the long dark of life. And then I love Rosemary Traumer's books on poetry. I'll read a poem sometimes. If I only have 2 minutes, a wise habit is just to read a poem. And I have a meditation practice, long-term meditation practice. I have wise habits around moving my body. And those are often habits around moving. If you were to look at my space right now, I have below me 2 of these balls. One is a big squishy ball. The other one just rolled away. One is a hard little ball. And I will, while I'm doing a podcast interview, I'm stretching my calves.
You know what? I have a chair behind me that I will put my foot up on to stretch my thighs.
Exactly. Right. Because our bodies, especially as therapists, our bodies take a beating. You know, how many times have we sat in a therapy chair in the sort of this contorted position with our shoulders to our ears? And what we know about, I just interviewed someone, Jill Miller, about the muscles in our trapezius are connected to our vagus nerve. And when your trapezius are up to your ears, you are sending signals to your brain that you are not safe. And if your client's trapezius is up to their ears and your trapezius are up to your ears, you are sending your mirror neurons are signaling to each other that we're not safe. I mean, all this stuff around neuroception and, polyvagal theory and the whole bit. So I have some wise habits to support my body. I have wise habits around my 10-minute breaks. I used to always catch up on emails. That's why I have 2,034 emails, because I don't take my 10-minute breaks to do my emails. I take my 10-minute breaks to go and I walk down to my favorite oak tree and I walk back, because we know that we are wiser when we're in the presence of trees. I mean, if you think about when you were a kid, there's a classic question I'll ask clients. I'll be like, there was a tree.
There was a tree.
Tell me about it. So, Joe, there was a tree. Tell me about it.
There's a tree. So my parents had a field behind their house that 3 siblings owned this field and couldn't agree on how they were going to sell it. So we always thought the field was going to get developed, but it never did through my whole childhood. And there were 2 trees that my parents had said we could go all the way to the telephone pole. That was the border of as far as we could go. And it was the tree closest to the telephone pole. And there was 2 trees, 2 pine trees right next to each other. The one on the right was very hard to climb. The one on the left was easy to climb. So we would climb up it. And there was these 2 branches that were just firm enough that we could kind of wiggle out onto it. And then we'd go down. I mean, it seemed like it was 30 feet in the air. It was probably 8 feet in the air. But these little kids that we called it the elevator. It would kind of take you down and then you let go and then you climb the tree again. And then it would take you back down. It just was a magical place. There was a tree.
A magical place. There was a tree. So Joe, that came to you so quick. You probably haven't thought about that tree in years.
Yeah.
Right? Store it in there. What did that magical elevator of a tree teach you? Or your experience with it?
My brother and I just spent a lot of unstructured time out there. And so I think for me, it's just having a sense of wonder. We had a few different other trees that were kind of minor trees compared to that tree, but that we would kind of roam too. But I think that just having a sense of space away from the family. I mean, a sense of place to go just play.
Okay, here's my next question. Joe, how much unstructured time, space away, and play do you have in your day-to-day?
I'd say I'm at half of what I should be. I joined an improv troupe about 5 years ago. And so I do improv every week, which to me is so fun to just play with a bunch of other adults. And the parties that improv people throw are just so funny and silly. That's a little more structured, but it's definitely the play side. I would say that I don't have a lot of the just time in nature that's not an intentional walk with the dog or something like that, where I just roam. I do paint watercolors, and that's, I think, sitting on the beach and just painting with watercolors with water from whatever water I'm by is probably the other kind of unstructured play or creativity that I have. So I'd say I'm probably halfway towards what I think would be getting closer to that.
Okay. When you do the improv, when you paint the watercolors, when you have time in nature, what happens to your energy?
It definitely invokes that feeling of a flow state, or just ease and things just being okay. It's just fine.
Yeah. For many of us, it's restorative. It's restorative of our energy. And we think that it's not important. We think that, I'll paint watercolors when I have time.
Yeah.
And what we know about the perception of time is that time is a perception, that actually time affluence is some of the research from Cassie Holmes at UCLA, that time affluence, how much free time you think you have, is something that's completely malleable. If you are giving away your time, you actually end up feeling like you have more free time. If you're volunteering your time, you feel like you have more free time. If you are doing something that is meaningful, you feel like you have more free time. And if you are spending time in nature, you are experiencing time affluence, right? Mm-hmm. But so for many of us, we put things off. And the very things that we're putting off are the things that are energizing to us. But that doesn't mean we have to go and
spend an hour in a watercolor class midday when we have busy lives, or we have to go and hike up some, we all want to go to Dominican Republic, but right now we can't. So how do we bring those things in? I have a painting of my favorite beach behind me by a local artist, and a painting by my grandmother of another favorite beach. I'm bringing the energy of my ancestors in. I'm bringing the energy of the ocean in. And I can remember, oh, that is inside of me too, that feeling. And just pausing and imagining the ocean energy or water, or for me, is re-energizing. So it's accessing our wise self. But going back to something as simple as like there was a tree can open us up to all sorts of things that we don't think of. We think of energy in terms of like, are we exercising? Are we eating right? Are we getting enough sleep? But there's other sources of energy that we can draw upon as therapists. We can also help our clients draw upon as well.
So I'm wondering, go a little bit deeper into that whole idea of time affluence, because so I'm a single dad with 80% custody, really busy with the girls. They're 14 and 10. And so it's just like, I'm recognizing this chapter, like what you said, is a very busy time of just, putting time into kids. When adults feel like, man, adulting is really hard, how do people juggle it all? Like, do we need to juggle it all? What would you challenge about that idea of hustle culture or any of that, just what we're told to do as both parents and adults?
We've always been juggling it all. Evolutionarily, we've always been juggling it all. There's things that we don't have to do now that our ancestors had to do many, many years ago. I mean, they had to like go down to the water and get jugs of water and bring it back. They didn't have a lot of time. They had to make fires to cook their food. They didn't have a lot of time. And there are certain, communities and times in our life where we have less time. So if you are a working single parent, on paper, you do have less, quote, free time. So we do know from the research that, sort of happiness and time is a bit of a U-shaped curve, where if you have less than 2 hours of discretionary time a day or more than 5, we all have had those clients that have more than 5 and they're depressed as heck. Mm-hmm. You are less happy. We need some discretionary free time to go like look at a tree, go for a walk, take the time to eat your food without doing something else while you're doing it, right? But there's also this thing that we do that's unwise effort around in the time that we are in that uses up the energy, right? I go to a monastery every summer with my kids. I tried taking 2 teenage boys to a monastery. It's fascinating. It's a busy time. Everyone says, oh, I don't have monasteries. They're just sitting around. If you are in a monastery, you're like working. We're up at 5. We're setting up the meditation cushions. We're cooking the meals. We have work service. I'm like cleaning the toilets for 300 other families that are there. It's a busy time. But what they do is every single experience that you are in it. I'm in the cleaning toilet meditation group. And I'm also thinking about all the people who have cleaned toilets for me in my life. And why am I cleaning these toilets? And can I be present in this, right? And notice what shows up in this. So with the hustle culture, I don't know. I feel like, everyone, we can all add on. Like everyone's just adding on. They're going too fast. But a lot of it has to do with your inner relationship with time. Are you fully present in the times that you are in? Or is your mind always on to the next thing? So that you're just skimming the surface of your life. You're just on to the next thing, and then you go to bed. And maybe we've spent a whole lifetime on that, degree to degree to degree to degree, until we retire, as if we're playing, haven't you played that game of life with your kids? You're in the game of life, and the goal is to get to the farm or the mansion at the end and retire. What happened to the whole game of life? So to be more in your life and to have wise efforts and have regenerative energy, even when you are busy, even when you are juggling 3 million things, which you're juggling more than most if you are a single parent. How are you showing up in the time that you have? Are you here 2 feet on the ground, or is your head somewhere else? Are you caught in a story? Are you avoiding discomfort? Are you holding on too tight to something?
Such good tips. Oh my gosh, this is what I needed. Thank you. The last question I have is, if every private practitioner in the world were listening right now, what would you want them to know?
I guess what I would want you to know is that it doesn't have to be so one way, that there's an exchange that's happening. There's a wisdom in the room. Your clients have a wisdom in the room. You have a wisdom in the room, and there's a bigger wisdom that holds all of us. And
you don't have to work so hard. You know, that sometimes the working hard at something disconnects you from that thing. There's a bigger flow, energetic flow that is accessible to all of us at all times, a big flow of love. And know all your techniques and strategies, learn the core processes of ACT, practice the heck out of it all. But there's also an element of energetic flow, which you can step into with your clients, a flow of wisdom that's available to them, available to you. And it's not up to you in a one-way way to fix anybody that comes into your room or to feel responsible for anybody's life other than your own.
So awesome. Diane, if people want to get your book, if they want to follow your work, where should we send them?
You can go to wiseeffort.com. I have a podcast called The Wise Effort Show, interview lots of people, Stephen Porges amongst some of them, body people, mind people. And I also have a business of therapy program where I walk therapists through the Wise Effort method, live 6 weeks of live kind of level up your practice life if you want to play bigger in your practice and in life in general. And you can find that there as well.
So awesome. Well, thank you for all the work that you do and for being on the show today.
Thank you.
There's so many things I have from this show, notes that I've taken. Like that idea of, am I stuck in a story? Am I avoiding discomfort, holding on too tight? It's interesting having gone through such a public divorce and, publicly being a single dad and having that story of being busy and thinking through, if me and my partner Claire sat down and said, like, what does busy look like for me? Do I want to change that? Is there a story I'm holding on too tight to? And, I think for a lot of the time early on, having my life together, having my house together to look somewhat like a catalog was an example of being a good single dad. When is that the thing my kids need? Probably not. I think that, other things that stood out from the episode today was, just that I wondered, ... and thinking about that, choice points of like value versus my values versus, moving away from them. A quote that I wrote down was, I pity the child with the perfect parent. And so a lot of you that are listening, maybe you feel like you have to be perfect parents, perfect business owners, perfect whatever. So hopefully today, maybe that challenged that. And then the last note that I had for myself is, what's my relationship with time? To sit with that. My dad was a clinical psychologist, my mom a school nurse, really organized type A firstborn people, and I'm the firstborn of two firstborns. You can see how my version of time might not be always what's best for me. So a lot of great things to sit with. I would love to hear on social media if you're, watching some of these clips on Instagram or on TikTok or on YouTube. Drop us a note. You can always email me, Joe at practiceofthepractice.com if something stood out to you. Also, we could not do this show without our amazing sponsors, and Headway is our sponsor for today. They're also helping to co-sponsor that 7-figure practice retreat that's in the Dominican Republic. All you have to pay is the admin fee. That's covering our staff time to help put it on. They are covering the entire cost of an all-inclusive resort for you. This is going to be in February. You can read all about it if you're a 7-figure practice owner. Please apply over at practiceofthepractice.com/7. They also help you run your best group practice through Headway. They're trusted by thousands of group practice leaders to simplify insurance admin and reach more people through in-network care. You can head on over to join.headway.co/Joe. That's join.headway.co/Joe. Thank you so much for letting me into your ears and into your brain. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon. Special thanks to the band Silence is Sexy for that intro music, and this podcast is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information in regard to the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the host, the producers, the publishers, or guests are rendering legal, accounting, clinical, or other professional information. If you want a professional, you should find one.